Hi, and welcome to Rest Stops, short features to encourage you toward greater life balance. My name is Rachel, and here's my dad with today's Rest Stop.
Hi, and welcome to the Rest Stop. Are you a risk taker? For me, not so much. My personality and temperament are much more wired toward stability, safety, and security. For instance, I'm not much of a risk taker in the area of finances and take a much more conservative approach to investments rather than being speculative. You also won't see me jumping out of a perfectly good airplane to go skydiving, hang gliding, walking on one of those swinging bridges, or walking along the edge of a cliff while hiking. Whenever our family goes to the mountains, my wife Tammy does the driving while I white-knuckle my way through the journey. I love being in the mountains, just not the drive to get there. Looking over the car window at the sheer drop-off on the other side of a less than adequate guardrail is not my idea of fun. Although about 2 years ago, I did climb about halfway up one of our organization's radio towers in Africa in an attempt to overcome my fear of heights. It didn't work. I'm a visionary. I have an adventurous streak in me, and I'm not afraid to change, and yet in many areas of life, I avoid risk. It's interesting. While I'm averse to risk when it comes to finances or potentially dangerous physical situations, I'm not the least bit hesitant or afraid of risk when it comes to speaking up or speaking out. I'm not afraid to confront wrong, speak the truth, defend my principles, values, or beliefs in any public setting, regardless of the risk. You know, in the business world, companies have risk management policies. They have these in place to protect the organization from harm, injury, or loss. They often perform a SWOT analysis to evaluate the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as they consider new plans or activities that will protect their assets, their people, products, property, and financial portfolios. They gauge their exposure to the chance of injury or loss and then decide accordingly. Now, not all risk can nor should be avoided. When it comes to pursuing life balance, there are risks you can afford to take, risks you can't afford to take, and risks that you can't afford not to take. Some areas of life to consider would be quitting your current job, pursuing a new career, asking your employer for a raise, popping the question to get married, starting a family, relocating your family, buying or selling a home, to name a few. Certainly, risks you can't afford to take are those that endanger your family and those around you. There are also risks you can't afford not to take. Restoring broken relationships is a risk you should take. Relationships are risky and involve an elevated level of risk. You can't be afraid of the risk of being real, vulnerable, and transparent with others. Confronting a toxic relationship is a risk you can't afford not to take. Sharing the gospel with someone is a risk you can't afford not to take. You can't afford not to take the risk of reaching out to others, moving out of your comfort zone, learning new things, making needed lifestyle changes, speaking up or speaking out, confronting wrong are risks you should take. You can't and shouldn't be afraid of the risk of having your assumptions or beliefs challenged. What about you? Conduct your own personal SWOT analysis and decide what are some risks you can afford to take, what are some risks you can't afford to take, and what are some risks you can't afford not to take. Taking risk involves trust. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths."